All right, we are live in session 2 of edcamphome 3.0. It's been a great day of learning so far, and this is the second time the you think or you say you want a revolution session is running. So let's have a great discussion here. So we're just going to do some quick introductions and then get into it. About 20 minutes talk. Don't want to spend too much time on things other than getting to the meat of the subjects. You can get something out of watching this if you're watching this later on, whether now or later. So let's go ahead and start with you, Lisa. Why don't you say a
Right.
little just about yourself?
Live in session 2 of edcamphome 3.0.
Oh, that's
It's been
weird.
a great day of learning so
Computer is
far.
doing something weird, so I'm gonna mute and go
This
to
is the second
Amanda
time
first.
you think or you say you want to.
All right, Lisa is watching us at the same time. All right, I guess it is your turn, Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Pelzer. I'm an instructional technology coach in an elementary school outside of Chicago.
All right, cool. Instructional technology coach. I'm actually just starting that. I was a business ed teacher for 3 years, and so this coming year I'll be a technology training specialist. It's really all the same. I think there's about 1.5 million different titles in schools for that same position. So cool. Well, hopefully we'll have some good things to talk about, and hopefully Lisa has figured it out now. Maybe. So what's happening, Lisa, is that you're watching somewhere else the session is running. Like the session you're in, you're actually watching it. So you might be on the event page for this event, for this. So it might be best if you just close out of everything except for the window you're in. I think then we'll be good.
I think I fixed it. I think I had to close everything, so.
All right, good. Hey, sometimes the nuclear option is the best option. I think I said nuclear wrong. I don't think anybody says that right. There are definitely people out there who's like sticklers on that. I'm not.
So I'm Lisa DeLeppo. I teach at Holy Names High School. It's an all-girls high school in Oakland, and it's a high school. And I am the Director of Instructional Innovation and STEM programs.
All right, awesome. So I think all three of us then are involved in technology, I guess, in some way in terms of our positions. Like I was saying to Amanda when she was introducing herself, I am beginning a job as a technology training specialist at the school district of De Pere in the middle school and intermediate school, so I'll be 5'8", which I'm really excited about. Those were grades that I spent the most time in my career. I have taught between grades 3 and 12 in business education, different things. So I've got to experience a wide range of kiddos, which is definitely exciting. Going from third graders in the morning at 8 to seniors at 1:30. It's quite the shift in one day. All right, so I'm just gonna get started with a simple question here, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But the topic was about revolutionizing schools. And I'm just going to say, do our schools need to be revolutionized?
I think if we're always questioning what we're doing, things will naturally change, and I think we don't question enough what we're doing.
Okay, I like that. So always question what we're doing. All right.
I would agree with Amanda. I think people need to reflect a lot more on what their practice is and looking and seeing how their assessments are making, if they're making any difference, and looking at how we're teaching. And how we taught 50 years ago was great for the blue collar worker, but are we creating innovative, creative people for the future that are going to create jobs and create new products for us to use?
Right, and I think that's a great point. Is that innovation, and that at least I've come to believe through the things I've heard and read that is something we need to emphasize more, that our students need to be able to do, because they're not going to be able to depend on the same types of consistency in occupations maybe our generation or parents' generation got to. So how do we do that? In the first discussion, it was kind of brought up one particular woman. She has in one of her classes like a 7 or 8 year old laptop and a projector. And that's the technology she has in her class. And because of some different issues, it's if not every student has a smartphone, then she can't really do activities that depend on it, was what was coming out, she was saying. So there were some issues there. And then talking about like Common Core and testing and all these things. How do we, I guess, how do we either do those things and still make the necessary changes? Can they coexist? Or is it a situation where we need to buck the system a little bit and do things maybe differently than those types of trends are telling us to do things?
So I think all three of us are in really, it's a unique position to be in. I read a tweet, it was probably several months ago now, that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But my job as an instructional coach is to make them thirsty. So I can, you're trying to help people change, and change is hard for a lot of people. But if you can get them to want to change, I think that's, get them reflecting, that's where you're going to have a lot of impact, I think.
So do you believe that, and this is open to either of you obviously, that technology is necessary to move education forward or to transform it, or that it's something else that needs to happen?
I think it's got to be everything, that the tools that our students are going to be using the most, and some of them will be using technology and all of its different iterations that'll happen. I think I'm going to be teaching a computational thinking course next school year, and half of it I'm not going to be using technology. Actually, I'll be doing a lot of, like, you're MacGyver, and you're going to have to try to figure out how to get out of this situation. And so here's a box of things that MacGyver has, and you have to come up with a way to figure out how you're going to open that window, and make a circuit. So I'm not going to be using technology per se, but I'm going to be doing like the exploration I'm going to be introducing that exploration atmosphere for my kids. And I think to get them to think, because they're so used to being spoon-fed information, and they kind of freak out when they don't have the answer. And I think we need to teach them not to freak out when they don't have the answer, but figure out the answer somehow.
Are you going to show clips of MacGyver?
Yeah, because I'm going to probably have to explain to them who MacGyver
is.
That's awesome. That reminds me of something I ran an exploring programming class at our middle school last year, and we didn't even get into any programming for probably the first week or two. We did a card house building activity where I wanted to think about iteration. So like with building a card house, you do a model over and over again, and kind of getting at the point of you learn from failure, and you learn by doing things, and you fail, and you try something again, and you gain skill through that process. Not that there's one right way to build a card house, but there's certain strategies that you figure out that work for you. And we did one about following directions too. Oh, go ahead.
Right.
I did that with cup stacking. I'm teaching Crazy for Code to 4th and 5th graders this summer. So that was our first activity that we did. They're like, we're not using computers? I was like, no. But so it taught them how important the directions were and the logic behind what they had to do. It was
absolutely.
It was
we did, and I borrowed this from somebody else, so I can't claim credit for coming up with this. But another activity we did was on directions and how the computer's only going to do what you tell it to do. It's not going to guess what you meant by what you typed in. It's only going to do what you told it to do. So we did an activity where I came up with some things like brushing your teeth, eating a granola bar, putting on a shirt. And then the students had to write directions for how to do those things. And then another team of students or one student had to act it out based on the directions that another student wrote. And they could only do what the directions said to do. So kind of getting to think, the computer's not going to know. So as you can see, this doesn't work very well here. As humans, yeah, we can kind of guess because we learn some of those things, but a computer won't. So that was a fun type of activity. That was not technology, but I hope drove the point home a little bit.
To kind of like go back to your question though, when I work with teachers, although like technology is in my title, I always focus on instruction. And technology a lot of times is the tool that makes it easier to do the instructional goal, but it's never about the technology. It's, and because technology is in my title, I have a lot of teachers that will say, like, I really want to do a technology project. And I'm like, well, what is the learning that you want to happen? What are you trying to have them do or learn? And then so it always just comes back to the instruction, I guess. I
Awesome.
love technology, but it's not always the right tool for everything. So.
Very cool. Now, something that you both touched on and that I touched on a little bit too, we talked about coding. So if we're really looking at, let's say, the ideal school, what should school look like? What would, if we were to design the perfect school system, if that is even something that could exist, where does coding fit in? Because I know that's something there's a huge push on right now. Is programming as important as we're making it? Should that be a part of every school? Should every kid need to take it?
I think it should be an elective for those who are interested in it, but there's other ways to teach critical thinking, and I think that's what coding does. I personally, I have to teach coding, but I'm not looking forward to it, and so I have to find a way to love it so that I can make kids like it. And if I had my way, I would only teach my computational thinking class.
Well, I think, though, that coding can fit into math in certain areas. Like, there was one of my students this summer was like, wait a minute, I'm doing angles. And I was like, I know you are. I tricked you into doing that. So, it's, I think it can fit into different areas, but I think, I think you're right that it's more about like that logical thinking, and I don't think that kids are used to doing, like they haven't been asked to do that a lot. So, if it's coding or if it's something else, just giving them the opportunity to think in that way.
Okay, interesting. So is that more where the revolution schools needs to take place? Is that instead of focusing on content, as we can agree that's still a big thing with testing, more focusing on what types of things can we do to get kids engaged with the content and thinking about what it means, what it could mean?
I think they need to find a way to make it real world thinking instead of, it's in a book and it's a PowerPoint and it's, I don't know, just I think like I always tell my math teachers, give me a reason to want to do that equation and like why I need that equation in the future, and I will do it. But don't just tell me that I have to do this equation and memorize it to just get to pop out a number. I want to know why I need to know that equation. And I think if you could do that with every subject and just say, this is why you're going to need it, or this is the real world application. That's why I like the computational thinking course, because it's going to be like, here's like you could be stuck in a room and have to be MacGyver. I want them to have a real world experience so that they remember it and it's deeper learning, and then there's a lot more passion involved.
Right. Fair enough. I think that's a great point, is that real world learning aspect. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, and kind of providing that purpose for everything we do. And I think that might be where the challenge really lies, in that we can do all of these things to make our classes more exciting and more engaging, but if we really want to revolutionize, I think that's really where it needs to be. How do we get kids involved in real world ways with whatever subject we're doing? And in my opinion, maybe that gets away from subjects in general, because a lot of real world issues aren't one thing.
Right.
And I think that would, if I was going to say like my biggest change with schools, would be getting rid of this notion that you're here, then you're here, then you're here, and all these things happen just by themselves instead of in concert like they do. And that's why I love teaching my subject area for, and why I got into it and why that's when I wanted to teach. That's why I wanted to teach business ed, because I felt very free that those connections existed here because I was outside of the core curriculum, but yet, when you're talking about economics, I mean that's a combination of social studies, and there's math involved there, and there's even a science to it, and all these things interact, and getting those connections is definitely big.
Right. I agree. I think so many of us are like siloed into our subject areas and don't realize that you can talk to other teachers and collaborate and make projects together. When I was a middle school teacher, that was like my favorite thing to do. I taught language arts, but I always paired with the social studies teacher to do, or I also taught at a Catholic school, so we did a lot of religion / social studies / English language arts, and so we did poverty project. Project-based learning really does lend itself to doing that like whole world curriculum. And then there's also, I love to show my students the TED Talk by Logan LaPlante, who's this kid who talks about hack schooling.
Actually, I love that one.
Yeah, I mean, the way he goes to school is the way we should all go to school. To ski and learn physics and to learn, science and temperature and math. What kid wouldn't love that?
And that's so individualized. That's the magic there, is that he's learning those things because he himself cares. But if I had a class of 25 kids and we're going to learn the physics of skiing, maybe we go and ski and then we learn the physics of it, sure, there's going to be a bunch of kids who like it, but then you're going to have those kids like, one, why do we waste class time on skiing? I hate skiing. I don't want to do this. And two, okay, well, I still don't care anymore about this because I don't like skiing. That's where, how do we get to that point? Is that something that we can do in public education? Can we foster that?
I don't even know the answer. I think if I did, I'd be very rich.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I was just having this discussion on Twitter. There's a couple guys out there I talk to all the time that have very different viewpoints, I would say, from the mainstream in education. One guy I know is an administrator, he says, in a school, a normal public school. His Twitter handle, I gotta check now, I don't know off the top of my head here. He'd be a great one to follow if you're looking for some revolutionary ideas. It's Sisyphus38, so SISYPHUS 38, and I'll put that in the chat for you. And he just does a lot of really thought-provoking type stuff. And the other guy that I talk to a lot as well about these types of things is Jared Kosalich, and he's at JARED COSULICH. And they're just guys that really challenge my thinking. Jared, I don't know if he works that one. I'm trying to think. Or I know he talks a lot about Sudbury schools. And the Sudbury school style it sounds very similar like a Montessori style, where it's called a democratic school. And each student there is 100% in charge of their own learning, and all the adult teachers there are purely facilitators. So when we talk about guide on the side, they live that, where the students drive everything that they do, and they learn on a daily basis. And so whenever I come across something, or just think about how things are versus the way they could be, I like to talk to those guys because they really make me think differently about what we do versus what they might be doing there, and how is their system successful versus not, and how is our system maybe successful versus not, and just trying to figure out what's best for kids, and that's really where we're at with that.
I just followed the second one that you said. I didn't catch the first one. I didn't type fast enough, so I'll get it.
I put that in the in our Hangout, I put it in the chat.
Cool. See it.
Yeah. So they're both great. Like I said, revolutionary type ideas. I think they both think really big about how we could be doing school better for kids. There's also a Twitter chat that I like to jump in on occasion called No Box Thinking Chat. So it's hashtag NBT chat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that one is also good because that's a group of people just discussing how can we do this thing better? How can we better meet our kids? And we talk about all these great things we need to work on. And maybe that's a good place for us to wrap up. We have about 2 minutes left. We talk a lot about it. So what are things that we can do? What are things that the average teacher can do in their class? What are things that an administrator could do to do things differently, to really get at those skills we want kids to know?
I think the biggest thing that administrators can do is just give you permission. Permission to like we always say, we want to give permission to the kids to fail and in a safe place, and the teachers need the same permission to try new and innovative things and fail. And if they don't fail, then great for the school. If they do fail, then learn from it. But I think the best gift an administrator can give to their teachers is just freedom to think outside the box. Because until I came to the school I worked at, I've never had that freedom until this last year, and it's been incredibly eye-opening, and I've seen my students learn, and it's incredible.
I think I would agree. I think that helps a lot in any school environment, is that freedom, is that permission, whether it's the teachers giving to the students, definitely the admin giving to the teachers. It sets the tone for the whole environment, and I think gets us on the right path, and I think that's a start. I think that's where it needs to be, and I think once that's there, then you can start to work with teachers who may be more reluctant to really start to try new things, because then they won't have to worry about the big brother's hand coming down on them for trying something and failing. Because some of us will do it anyways, but I know other people may not. So it's really trying to get that environment going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was fun to chat with you. It's good having you in here. I know it's a small group, but sometimes it's nice because then you get to really get into a discussion.
And we'll meet in a couple weeks.
We will. I'm still so excited about that. It's weird. Like, the excitement hasn't really gone away, and every time I allow myself to think about it, I get all giddy again. About the New Teacher Academy, and just like, wow, I can't believe. And probably the coolest thing, beyond Google and beyond everything else, is, this is just an amazing group of people. And I don't know how I got in with this group of people, but I'm so excited to meet everybody, because everybody's doing like crazy awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow Roland on Twitter, but he's going to the All-Star game with the Blue Jays.
No way! Wow.
Roland Shadiak. Shadiak.
Oh my
I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but yeah, he was in this finalist for this vote thing to go to the All-Star game.
And, okay.
Yeah,
I'm voting for that.
Yeah, and so he's going. He's going next week. He'll be in Minnesota next week, so that's awesome. So there's so much cool stuff happening. Just there's not going to be enough time to get to everybody, and that's going to be disappointing. But hopefully we'll have a lot of hangouts like this, or get some conversations going beyond that day.
Are you staying at the Country Inn?
Yeah, at the County Inn. Yep.
Cool. So, I'm sure like most of us are staying there, so it'll be pretty cool to like have the before parties and stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast, because I think we're getting off the topic here, but that's fine. It was great chatting with you, and Amanda too. I know she probably had to go with the roller hockey thing that she was at. So it's amazing that people are able to participate wherever they're at with this edcamphome thing. And it's really amazing, obviously, what Carl and Kelly and David and Sean have created, this thing that is bigger than itself.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome to be a part of it from the beginning. So it's and they improve it every time. I don't know how they do it, but they do it.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Well, take care. Sounds good.